Hello and welcome to the live lounge. We are here at PTZOptics booth N1902 at NAB 2026, and it's been a great show. We are now joined by a very special guest from vMix. Heath, how are you doing today?
Hi there, I'm well. I'm doing really well. I've had a great show so far. The conversations that I've had, I've always enjoyed. I always enjoy chatting to our users, and I always enjoy talking to people that have never heard of vMix, and just watching their eyes light up as they see things that they can do with it.
So, for people at home that don't know, and most of us do, we use vMix very closely here at PTZOptics. Mike, our producer, is constantly using it almost every day.
Right.
But if someone doesn't know what vMix is, what is vMix?
So it's a live software switcher for video. So you can bring all of your video sources in, including your PTZOptics cameras and other cameras as well. You can bring in all of your video sources and images and graphic titles, mix it all up, switch it all up, make it look cool, and then send it out to something like YouTube or Facebook, or record it for later use, or send it to, in some cases, television networks.
So Heath, what is your role at vMix, and when did you get started?
So I got started about 5.5 years ago at vMix, but I've been using vMix for a while before then because I was using it at my church. I am the senior systems engineer there, and so I look after all of the technology that we support at vMix, all of the hardware that we have to support. I run all of the testing, or at least run the testing lab and the team that work in the lab. And I also deal with a lot of people's questions. So I'm on the support team, and when questions get a little bit tricky, they often end up in my bucket. So I'm always happy to help people.
So tell me a little bit about that conversation. So you saw vMix, and I actually started at PTZ in a similar way, where I was like helping install PTZ cameras, found out about PTZOptics, and now here I am 3 years later at PTZOptics. So how did you reach out to Tim? How did that happen?
Okay, so that's an interesting story. The CEO and developer of vMix, his name is Martin, and I went to school with him. He was fairly busy at the time, and he said, hey, I'm looking for an engineer that can get into the nitty-gritty, but can also talk to a CEO or something like that. And I'm like, all right, I'll have a think about some people that I might be able to recommend to you. And he goes, no, I'm talking about you. I'm like, oh, I'm a pretty light vMix user. This was some years ago, but we had a good think about it over some time, and I ended up coming on board and have never looked back. So my previous history as an engineer was in the robotics sector. So I was building robotic factories to put Coke into a bottle, or to put bread into a bag. And managing those production lines and making sure that they went in well and ran well, and dealing with both the guys that were on the floor doing the work and dealing with the CEOs and, the guys that were making the big decisions for companies like Coke. So it just ended up being a good fit.
That's incredible. And there's honestly so many connections to even us on the PTZ side of things. House of worship, PTZ cameras are used in almost every house of worship, almost every church. Industrial manufacturing, we're growing, and we're using PTZ cameras on assembly lines. And of course, people use PTZ cameras every day in vMix, right?
Yep.
So I have to ask you, where do you see PTZ cameras commonly used in vMix, and what do those solutions look like?
Sure. The three major areas, I would say. Churches. Enormous usage in churches. It's so handy to have a pan tilt zoom capability built into a product so that your team can be lean, because churches, resourcing is the problem at every church. It's the same as mine, as everyone else's. Getting the right amount of resources is really hard. And so being able to move things like camera movements onto somebody that's also handling a lot of the other elements of your live stream for church is really handy. The next thing I would say would be sports, getting PTZ cameras out there on the field to be able to track stuff and watch footage, and it's the same benefit. These especially sporting venues that are one tier down, they're resource shy as well. So they need to do these things lean with small teams, and that's where cameras that can move all on their own just make a big difference. The last field I would suggest would be town hall meetings and conferences and that sort of world.
Absolutely.
So And we have a lot of customers that are working in like theaters or town halls or, you know, big conference spaces.
That's incredible. So Heath, we're here in Las Vegas for NAB 2026.
Yes.
This is the place where you show the latest and greatest.
Yeah.
What are you guys showing off today?
So vMix 29 came out quite recently, and at IBC last year, just towards the end of last year, we announced OMT, and now we can say that OMT is growing to a point where it's being adopted by others. And for those of you that don't know anything about OMT, OMT is a protocol that moves video over the local network, sort of like NDI. It's equivalent or slightly faster and slightly higher quality than full bandwidth NDI. The reason we're all about OMT for vMix 29 is because we wanted to see an open source and royalty-free protocol for moving video over your local network. We have SRT for the internet. We can move video open source that way, but we didn't have anything for the local network. So we wanted to see that. We wanted to see that happen. So we got on the bandwagon with OMT. We were heavily involved in the development of OMT. And when we demonstrated at IBC, we were demonstrating it by encoding and decoding it on vMix and on Raspberry Pi 5s. So it was in prototype phase. Now we're starting to see hardware developers actually creating encoders and decoders. And I've just brought two of them along with me. We've got an encoder and decoder from companies like CND Live and Miri. Both of them have produced products that can do full OMT encoding and decoding, which is really cool. And we're hoping to see more and more as the months go by.
So the major benefits you're seeing are better, what, latency?
Yeah, lower latency and higher quality video.
Okay.
And now, because OMT was heavily developed by vMix, it, under the hood, uses a protocol called vMX. And vMX is the codec, I should say, the codec that we use for instant replay and vMix AVI recording. And what that means is if you're bringing OMT video into vMix over the network, it's already processed in our flavor. And so we don't have any processing to do. So we can just store that. And so that means that we can do instant replay on a lower power machine and get a lot of performance benefits from a product. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So OMT hasn't been out very long, right?
No, it's still very new. Yeah. So there's only a few adopters. We haven't had any camera adopters actually release anything yet, but we know of a few that are trying some stuff out at the moment. I actually know of one that has hooked a Raspberry Pi inside their camera just to get it working and as a prototype.
Yeah.
But nothing's announced yet, so I can't share anything. Yeah.
So a lot more coming about that. We are very interested in OMT here, and we're definitely looking into it more on our end. So if you're interested at home, let us know. If you're using it at home, let us know as well. But Heath, I wanted to ask you, you may have heard this question before, maybe you haven't, but where is vMix on the Mac?
Oh, yeah, no, I haven't heard that one before. No, vMix is not coming to Mac, and here's why. The reason is vMix is similar to running a computer game. It leverages your graphics card heavily, and when you're encoding, it leverages NVENC encoding, which is the NVIDIA encoding. And those two elements are uncommon in Apple products. And so because it operates a bit like a game, and most games are like Windows, are run on Windows to get the best performance, it's the same when it comes to vMix. To get the best performance out of vMix, it has to be run on a Windows machine because it can leverage more out of your graphics card. So until that changes, there's no reason to make an Apple product because it will be lesser. It will be less powerful, and you'll be paying the same for vMix but getting not as much out of it. So we really want people to get the most out of it, and that is on Windows.
Oh, that's a great answer.
That's the reason.
That is a great answer.
Yeah.
So, Heath, I always ask this to kind of wrap up our questions here. Sure. What do you think the AV industry looks like in 10 years? From vMix point of view, live switching and production, but also your own personal take. What do you see is happening in the next 10 years?
Yeah, so I reckon, I think a lot of people would talk about AI. I'm sure they would. But I'm going to skip that topic because I reckon it'll be covered by heaps of people.
Sure.
So my my thinking is SMPTE 2110. I really think that that's got good legs, and I think because Blackmagic Design have made it accessible to that tier 2 and tier 3 sort of world, I think we're going to see a lot of SMPTE 2110 start to be important. It can carry a lot of bandwidth, and so over fiber, you can doing 100G over one cable, and so down the track, I can see that being really useful. And because companies like Blackmagic are making it easy by selling you a switch that's already set up with an NMOS register with ISO 4 and ISO 5 protocols all built in, and PTP clocks and all the hard stuff that made SMPTE 2110 hard before, they're making it easy. And so now we're going to start to see the benefits of that. And so schools and even like primary schools that are doing vMix productions, I can see them actually starting to use these products because it is going to be plug and play. So within 10 years, yep, I'm fairly confident of that. The other thing that I think will be interesting in the sports world will be high-speed replay. So as high-speed replay, because at the moment it's still quite expensive, in my opinion, at sort of 100, 150 grand to get into it, that's a tier 1 cost. But as cameras and equipment becomes capable of handling 120, 240 frames per second, and vMix has been able to support 240 for ages, but as hardware catches up that is affordable, I think we're going to see that in schools. Even like primary school sports will have high-speed replay playback, which would be just so cool for the kids.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think there are two areas that we're going to see grow a lot over the next few years.
Well, that's incredible. I can't wait for the future of vMix. We're going to keep using it every day.
Great.
Well, Heath, thank you for joining us. Where can they learn more about vMix, and where can they find you?
Yep, head to vmix.com. If you want to learn about vMix, head to the YouTube channel. We've got a vMix YouTube channel with maybe 350 videos that'll teach you everything you need to know about vMix. And then head to our website to grab the free 60-day trial. It's got all the features, no watermarks. Go at it. Use it to do $1 million project. Go for it.
Well, thank you again, Heath. I appreciate you joining us today.
You're welcome.
And everyone that's watching at home, we will be back at 1:30 Pacific time or 4:30 Eastern time with Netgear. So stay tuned. We'll be right back at the live lounge. Thanks for joining us. To the live lounge. We are here at PTZOptics booth 1902. We are actually joined by a very special guest from Netgear, and if you don't know, the whole booth here is actually powered by Netgear. Devon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Great NAB. How about yourself?
Oh, it's been absolutely amazing. It's our officially biggest booth ever. As I mentioned, whole booth is powered by Netgear. You guys are so amazing to work with, and I can't wait to see how else we kind of work together in the future.
Yeah,
but I wanted to ask you, how has NAB been, but also, what's the conversation been like, and is there anything new from you guys this year?
Yeah, so the conversations have been great. Netgear is really focused in developing products specific for the broadcast market. We've been known for a number of years to support a lot of protocols. I always like to think of us as kind of Switzerland. No matter what you throw at us, we're going to be able to move that over a switch. So some of the great protocols out there, like NDI or Dante AV, we support. And we make it really simplistic to configure a switch. You don't have to be a network expert. You don't have to understand command line interface. You simply have to know that on this port I'd like to do Dante AV, or on this port I'd like to do NDI. What we see are so many of these different protocols that are there, and we try to keep on top of those. That's how we innovate on that side. We're also producing a lot of switches, and these are all being released at this show here that are supporting SMPTE 2110. Wow. So that means that we're moving upstream and actually supporting huge bandwidth in some of the switches that are there. So where we were doing, 1 gig and at the top end like 10 gig, per port switches, we are now doing 100 gig switches that have grandmaster and boundary clocks built into them that can support some of the largest applications that are out there. And we're quite excited about that.
So what are some of those applications and use cases for SMPTE? Have you seen commonality or a trend there?
Yeah, so there's so many different, like mixed environments is what I would say we're seeing, and that's where Netgear really shines. Mm-hmm. So for a lot of the large broadcast manufacturers that are out there, they're supporting workflows that have NDI in them, and they also are supporting workflows that have 2110. So think of, the applications. It might be something like in the higher education or a Fortune 500 that, they have, all these, rooms that they're trying to move AV into, but they also have that broadcast side of things that they really haven't figured out. How do I get into this?
Yeah.
What is SMPTE 2110? Is it too expensive for my budget at that time? Like, Netgear is really focused on, making it more accessible to all. And so in building, the Grandmaster clocks into these and supporting so many of these manufacturers, we really feel like we're opening up the market to really expand into some of these applications that are out there.
So I was going to ask how is the AV industry changing, but it's almost like you just answered my question, right? It's more bandwidth, it's faster and more powerful, right?
Yeah, well, I think that there's some great stuff in the broadcast world that really hasn't been adopted entirely into the commercial AV side of things. So people see these technologies, and in the past they might have been unattainable because of the cost, because they were going into the big broadcast studios of ESPN and CBS.
Yeah.
But now, these technologies can be focused into smaller broadcast studios, places where we might see more of the PTZOptics, kind of cameras where it's a little bit more do-it-yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really something that our switches, are focused on as well. Like, we want you to focus on, the other equipment, not the network switch. We don't want you to get confused with IGMP and, what is PTP and how do I configure it to work with all these devices out there. So we created a UI that is simple as looking at the switch, saying the port and saying that I want to do NDI from PTZOptics, on it. So that simplicity is key to, opening up that market so that these smaller, workflows can be in a more professional environment.
So, yeah, I'm sure you see a lot of use of PTZ cameras and IP control cameras.
Oh, yeah.
What do those workflows look like? And is there specific Netgear hardware that's usually used for those workflows?
Yeah, so I would say that our 4250 series of switches is very popular with
We're using them here today at the booth.
Fantastic. I saw them everywhere. They're all over the show. So, we've built those switches specifically for, ProAV applications. So you'll see things like the ports are on the back and, there's lights on the front. What does that mean? In a rack, it keeps it clean. There's not a bunch of cables, hanging out. We make it very intuitive, on the switch, how to configure them. I mentioned the AV UI. You can certainly go to our website and see how that's all done. There's lots of videos on it. We also created a ton of PoE power. So depending upon the cameras, like there's some outdoor cameras sometimes that require 90 watts of PoE power. Like, we can support that. The higher side of PoE power, like some of our switches, I think the largest switch that we do in that series is a 40 port switch that has like something close to like 2,400 watts of power. Woo. How do you get that out of one outlet? You don't. It actually has 3 110 outlets to be able to get that much power into the switch. So we built for the future for things like bigger PTZ cameras that are out there, speakers that people are producing that would require more PoE, and we made it really simple to mix and match these technologies. I think like one of our biggest successes that we did a number of years ago was working with NDI. And NDI came to us and they said, we've got a really big problem. Like, there are many people out there, manufacturers that are using the NDI protocol. With NDI 4, there was a configuration challenge that was separating the Dante traffic from the NDI traffic. We came up with a profile that did that. The input that we got from companies like PTZOptics are 85-90% of your technical support phone calls went away because they couldn't really support when somebody was going to Amazon and buying a switch that clearly wasn't purposed for this. And how do I configure that versus this other switch that's out there? So we really offered a service to reduce truck rolls, technical support, so that the novice user can be able to successfully configure these switches and work with PTZOptics cameras.
That's incredible. So I have a question about, there's a lot of talk about cloud, remote productions and things like that. Do you see Netgear often used in remote trucks or in these kind of like remote solutions?
Yeah, so this is all in development on our side, and I think it's something that's requested across the board. We certainly are in a lot of remote trucks that are out there that we see PTZOptics in. But it also comes to, how do you manage all these switches remotely? And so we have a product called Netgear Engage. Netgear Engage is an on-prem application today. But this allows you to configure all the switches. It allows you to see in a tree diagram, in topology, all the switches that are there. So complete control all the way to the most common thing, which is probably recycling PoE power if there's an issue. Solves like 90% of the problems we ever see.
Interesting. Okay.
We're actually, on a path to, creating that into a cloud application as well.
Wow.
So you'll see that down the road that, we see that need for remote production to be able to remotely manage these switches. And it's also to keep up to date with firmware. We're also adding some feature sets in there like pre-provisioning. So you don't have to have physically the switches or the cameras. You can say, this is what this is going to look like. You create a virtual switch. Then when you get on site, you plug everything in and you push a button and it's going to be done.
That's blowing my mind. I've never heard of anything like that before.
It's brand new. It only came out like 2 months ago.
Wow.
So we're really we're listening. That was a request that came from our customers. And they said, look, this is what I'm doing out there. And if you could do this, this would be a game changer. So that's where Netgear gets its best input. It's why we built the 4250 switch. It was the input from our customers, the manufacturers that we work with, and what companies like PTZOptics said there were their challenges, like in the technical support side.
That's why I've always loved Netgear AV. You guys have made things so simplified, but you guys are always constantly thinking about the future. Everything's always so sleek, well designed, lasts so long. You guys are incredible. You've always been amazing to work with. I wanted to ask you about not only your thoughts, but Netgear's AV's thoughts about the future. What does the industry look like in 10 years from now?
It's always a hard question. I don't have the magic 8 ball to know exactly where we're going to be at. What I do know are things that I've seen in the past and things that I'm seeing now and where I would project things are going. The commercial AV space, we really help push AV over IP forward on it. When we first got into that space, we were told by the manufacturers as well as the integrators that the thing that was holding them back was the configuration of the switch, that was challenging, that it would cost them $20,000 for every application they did to send somebody out to configure the switch. We simplified that. I would say the broadcast side of things, in my opinion, is a number of years behind. They've been stuck still, in a lot of SDI workflows. We're seeing that transition happen now, maybe 4 or 5 years behind where it was in the commercial AV space. Probably because these are the most critical environments that you can be in. And there had to be some gained trust of the reliability of workflows that included NDI and Dante AV instead of like a hardwired cable. I think we're there, and I think that trend will continue. I look at the development of what people are doing in products. Everything is focused and moving over to AV over IP applications, SMPTE 2110, NDI workflows. I think that will continue. We'll see less SDI and the workflows move over to IP.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Devon. Thanks for joining us today. Where can they find more about Netgear AV at home?
Oh, please go to www.netgear.com. You can see all of our ProAV line of switches. You can download Netgear Engage and get a taste for what that looks like. There's a ton of resources there, as well as I'd also recommend to go to our academy. If you want to become Netgear certified, there's a certified program where you can get Netgear 1, 2, or 3 certified.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because you can actually get PTZOptics certified on Netgear's Academy now as well.
We have a lot.
Just about 2 months ago with Gus, we launched the PTZOptics 101 course. So if you want to learn about PTZ cameras, Netgear, or all sorts of different hybrid solutions, you can go to the Academy and learn more. But thank you for joining us live from the lounge. We will be back again at 2 p.m. Pacific time or 5 p.m. Eastern Standard to talk with Inogeni. Thank you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Welcome back to the live lounge. We are here at PTZOptics, joined by Inogeni. How are you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
So how's NAB been for you so far, and is there anything new that you guys brought to the show?
Yeah, it's been great. We don't have a formal booth here at the show, but really the goal for me this year is meeting with partners like PTZOptics and really just, furthering the discussion around what we do as a manufacturer and how we can help really to improve the flow, signal flow and simplify conference rooms. And so it's been great. We brought a couple things with us this year, CamTrack and IP to USB, which we've been kind of floating around. Those have been released for a couple months now. And so, just having a lot of conversations and really looking forward to the next year with the new product launch. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We love Inogeni. If you don't know at home, we actually integrate with them for a voice tracking solution, for automated switching, depending on the microphone that you use. And then the Inogeni hardware will actually allow you to automatically switch between the speakers in the room. So it's really amazing technology. You guys are constantly coming out with new devices. So tell me about the Cam Director. What does that device do?
Yeah, it's really an amazing device. I mean, very, very small. I had somebody, a customer, an end user that ran into me here at the show, and they were like, yeah, tell me about CamTrack. And I was like, well, actually, let me show it to you. And I pulled it out of my bag, and they were like, I didn't expect that. But it's very, very small, compact. Really, it's got a really nice feel to it. It's a heat sink of aluminum, so it's got a really nice quality feel to it, which is always kind of a nice thing. But really, where it shines is in the performance and what it does. Okay. It really just simplifies these conference room flows for automatic tracking. So basically, how it works is we integrate with Shure microphones, especially the MXA 920, MXA 901. And we take the XYZ coordinates from the microphone, so the telemetry basically from the mics, and we use that data to then trigger camera preset recall, which is really interesting and unique. And cameras like PTZOptics really give us that edge to really provide for these really immersive applications and these really immersive experiences, utilizing different cameras positions in the room to make sure that you're getting the best shot, right? Because everybody in these meetings wants to be seen, they want to be heard. And so utilizing all these different technologies together, we're able to really bring that environment into kind of more of a broadcast feel, which is, it's great because we're here at the broadcast show. So it really provides for that broadcast type experience in a very, very small form factor and at a really compelling and economical price.
So automation, I'm sure everyone's asking for automation. Is there anything else that customers are asking for from Inogeni that you've heard at the show or as of recently?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, a lot more around USB technology, and USB is at our DNA. I mean, we were founded on products that support USB infrastructure, and USB is always a tough one. When you talk to system integrators and design engineers, they always kind of get hung up and stuck on USB because of the complexity around USB tiers and all of these different technologies. And so Inogeni's found a really great niche in the market to be able to solve for those problems. And it's really given us a great way to provide support to our customers and really provide these really great solutions. But I think there's more around IP, especially NDI, which is, QPTZOptics with their NDI capabilities on their cameras, which is why it's been a great relationship for us and a great partnership, partnering with companies like yourselves, because we can utilize these fantastic technologies that are already available in the broadcast space to really make these unique environments. And so I think there's going to be a lot more to come from us in the realm of IP and AV over IP solutions. Our specialty is bring your own device, bring your own meeting. So I suspect we'll have a lot more to come on that front.
Bring your own device, bring your own meeting. I love that. That's great copy. I used to be the writer here, so I got to compliment the copy on that one. That's great. Yeah. I love that. That's wonderful. That's so amazing. I wanted to ask you, like, some of the workflows. When do you see PTZ kind of integrated, PTZOptics specifically, but any kind of PTZ camera? What kind of hardware are you using with Inogeni, and what kind of workflows are you seeing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, everybody's, during COVID, everybody wanted simple. And so everybody kind of went to the easy button. They were buying a lot of bars, which, bars have their place in conference spaces. But bars are also very limited, typically. And so having PTZ capability and that flexibility to really get the best shot in the room is really going to stand out and provide for the best meeting experience, because, people want to be seen, but they don't want to be seen through a fisheye lens. They don't want to be seen from 20 feet away or, a little small dot on the screen. Yeah. They really want to be part of the meeting and feel like they're being heard and seen. And so I think that really limits a lot of their capabilities, and these PTZ cameras give us that flexibility to provide for those best shots. And so utilizing CamTrack and IP to USB, we're able to do that with PTZOptics.
So we know the here and now. Where do you see the industry going in 10 years from now? What does Inogeni look like, and what does the AV industry look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's funny. I have two boys that both, are graduated high school and have both ended up in AV, just like me. And I tried to warn them. I was like, hey, there's so many things out there. I mean, go into a field in cybersecurity, right?
Yeah.
But, I really do see a bright future ahead for AV. There's a lot more to come. I think AI is going to continue to provide all of these capabilities. You guys have some great AI capabilities you're showing here at your booth, and I think that that's really going to shape the way that we do meetings and how we, not only how we do the meetings, but also how we're viewed in those meetings. Really providing for engaging, shots of to make sure that we can capture people's expressions, and that we're really capturing the essence of people rather than just having meetings for the sake of meetings, which I think is always the key. And so, I think that we're going to see a lot more in technology grow that way. Like everybody else, I think Inogeni is looking at AI and looking at how we can incorporate that technology into what we're doing. And again, partnering with companies like PTZOptics is huge for us, and making sure that we're never going to make cameras. We leave that to the people that know how to do that best. And so having great relationships and partnerships like that are going to be key for us in the next 5 to 10 years for sure. So
it's very exciting, Ryan. Well, thank you for joining us. Where can they learn more about Inogeni?
Yeah, you can visit us at www.inogeni.com. There's a lot there. We also have a YouTube channel with videos that people can learn more about our products, especially CamTrack and IP to USB. Those are going to be really important products for PTZOptics customers. And happy to share more. You can also reach out to our sales team on inogeni.com, and always happy to get on a call and have conversations about how we can help people. So.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for everyone watching at home. We are live from the lounge every day this week, and we will be back again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time or 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have a bunch of new guests that we're going to talk to tomorrow, so look forward to it, and we'll see you then.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.